right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Reverend Vincent.
All right, let's try that again here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, there we go. You guys know I like energy here. Well, it is always great to be here at Community Miracle Center, and it's actually always an incredible opportunity to be able to speak here. It's one of the things that I value and I appreciate about the center, that allow each and every one of us to come and share our own thoughts regarding the course. And today my talk actually came when I was in Reverend Peter class for the LGBT and Q and beyond, and it was me, Reverend Peter, Reverend Kelly, and Leslie. I'm trying to figure out what the other person was in there. Leslie was there, and was reading a chapter regarding God's voice, and then Holy Spirit said, "Okay, Vincent, use this passage on your next talk." I had no idea what I wanted to talk about, but I knew that the Spirit wanted me to use this particular section for my talk. So I'm like, okay, fine. And one of the things that we are required to do is to send in a blurb to Reverend Kelly, so she could put it out so everyone could know that we are talking what we're talking about. And still at that moment, I still wasn't sure what I wanted to discuss. And then finally, it came to me, it's about finding our voice. Then I'm like, okay, finding our voice, that's something could be intriguing and interesting to talk about. And then I'm like, okay, but which direction do you want to go when you're talking about finding our voice? And so I just asked for guidance, and I just trusted that the Spirit will guide me on exactly what I am supposed to say. And so it made me realize that, the whole idea about finding our voice is just recognizing the fact that we all have different opinions. We have different opinions when it comes to our politics. We have different opinions when it comes to religion, to spirituality. We have different opinions regarding race, sexism, homophobia. Such a variety of things in our country that we have so many different opinions. The thing is, though, that's okay. That's the beauty of each and every one of us having our own voice, is because we are allowed to share our own perspective regarding that aspect of it. And so the course even started out in that paragraph is that this is a conflict state. And, in my mind, we're in a country that is always in a conflict state at some point or another. It's just the nature of the beast. But one of the big areas that I think that we are always in a conflict of state is regarding politics. So as we all know, we do have two major political parties, even though there are a little smaller ones, but two major ones are Republican and Democrat. So those are the two prominent ones that our country actually go by. And when we think about it, each one of those individuals have their own thought, their own opinion of how they perceive things. And as we know, they're not always the same. We're very much clear that it's very different. But the thing is, they're coming from what they feel is their truth. They are learning how to find their voice in their own manner. And that is something that we need to figure out a way of how to be able to do that. It does not mean that we actually have to agree with it, because of course there's things that certain parties say that I don't agree with, and that's okay. I'm allowed to allow them to do it. But the important thing is for them to be able to express it. But the other thing regarding politics is it's one of the areas that I feel and believe that could potentially create tension among friends or family, especially if you guys are coming from two different views of parties. So if one of you guys happen to be a Republican, the other one of you guys have to be a Democrat, you may have some very intriguing conversation with one another because of you guys' different views regarding that aspect of it. And so this reminded me of just thinking about, okay, what are some of the differences? So as we know, there's a variety of different differences between Republicans and Democrats. But one of the biggest things that that came to me that resonate is the whole idea of social issues. As we know, for the Republican part, they tend to be a little more conservative regarding their social issues. They tend to oppose gay marriages. They tend to promote more marriage between a man and a woman. That's their concept. They tend to oppose abortion and promote the right of gun ownership. That's usually the frame of what the Republicans come about. Where Democrats, they tend to be more progressive in their views, favoring abortion and favoring gay marriage, but are strongly for strict gun control laws that limit ownership. So, that is just one example of how, how Republicans think and how Democrat thinks. But then, of course, reminds us of this. God is not in you in a literal sense. You are part of Him. When you choose to leave Him, He gave you a voice to speak for Him because He could no longer share His knowledge with you without hindrance. So when we think about it, it really does not matter what party we're in. The thing that matters is, are we coming from a place of good? Are we coming from a place of what the Spirit or God is guiding us to say? That is what we need to pay attention to and starting to, recognize. Because if we're able to do that, then just imagine the conversations that we can actually have in this world. Part of, at least in my mind, that we're trying to do is to heal this world that we are in. And the only way to do that is we have to have a conversation. So even though someone may be a Republican or a Democrat and they have their different views, it's actually okay to be able to sit and listen what they have to say. And the interesting thing is, it reminded me of an incident that happened on my softball team. Because we do have a member on our team who views is different than pretty much all of us on our team. And he has very strong views regarding that. And so we were actually at a fundraiser, and so then they decided to get in a discussion regarding Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And it became intense. It became a very intense conversation because of their different views of how they saw things, to the point where I thought at one point, I'm like, oh my God, are we going to have to separate them because it became so intense? But the thing for me that stood out in my mind was how, while that conversation was going on, I did not allow my voice to come in there. There was something that was holding me back. Because as people who know me, I do have my own opinion about things. And usually I don't have trouble expressing it. But for some reason at that moment, I was too afraid to allow my own voice to come out and express what my thought was in the conversation. Part of it was because of my fear of not sure what the backlash is going to be, or that they may see me differently. But then when I take a moment and think about it and realize that is not true. Because they know who I am, they know what I usually stand for, and it's okay. But yet, in our own minds, we get blocked. We allow our fears to enter us instead of allowing ourselves to be able to express it. And the truth of the matter is, after they actually had that intense conversation, they went on about their own business. They embraced each other. They started talking about other stuff. And that's the way it should be. You can have these intense conversations and yet still be considered as one instead of separate. We don't have to separate ourselves because of the differences that we actually perceive that we have. The other thing that I thought about regarding politics, that's something that I appreciate and value, and yes, I'm going to own it because I am very biased, is our President Obama. I have to own it. I'm very biased with the things that he does, but I'm very, pleased with some of the things that he has done. Over these 8 years, it's been very interesting to see how slowly he's become more of himself, to be able to express his true thoughts of what he is meant to say, despite what other people say. Yes, it came out in his second term, which makes sense because you want to get elected again for your second term, so you got to play the politics and stuff like that. But he could have easily, his second term, take a step back and be a little conservative and not say what he really meant. But no, he allowed himself to evolve. He did not let his fear get in his way. He understood that people are not going to always agree with what he has to say, but he found it. He found his voice. And I think that makes us a better country because of that, of having a leader who's able to express what they truly feel despite what other people think. Because his ultimate goal in my mind is to bring us all together as one. That's what that's what his mission is. That's what I've always gotten from his talks. The Course says this: direct communication was broken because you had made another voice through another will. So when I think about this quote, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I'm not in direct communication and when I'm broken, I'm actually coming from my ego mind. I'm not coming from my spirit mind. It's my ego that is entering it. And that is not putting me in a good space. And so I was thinking about, in a time or incident where this may have, played out. And so I would start reflecting upon all the conferences that the Community Medical Center puts on. And at this point, I think I staffed 6 conferences. So thank you, Reverend Tony, for giving me that information, because I can remember how many conferences I, attended. And each one of those conferences had brought up different experience for me, for different variety of different reasons. But also in those conferences, as we know, we do have a reverend who tends to like to push the envelope a little bit, which is great. I remember when he came out, it was a San Francisco conference, as Antoinette, when he came out and did that, and how a lot of people were like, what the heck is going on here? But, we were in San Francisco, so hey, why not? Then, of course, there was a conference in New York where people got, upset because he was talking about the Course of Miracle and talking about the book and talking about, if I believe, how he made a statement regarding he felt that people were lying or took some things out. It's just like this whole stuff came out at the New York conference that he spoke about. And then there was the most recent conference in Las Vegas where he did the striptease, act. But then when we take a second and think about all those different conferences when he spoke at, guess what? He was guided to do that. And it's important for us to be able to trust that each and every one of us have our purpose in this world and is guided to voice whatever it is that we are. But what happens is a lot of times we take it too personally, and then we want to go back and attack others because of what they felt or guided to speak about. When these incidents happened, specifically to start with the one in New York, it came back to the board of directors, and I'm part of the board, and there's several board members here as well, because we do listen to people's feedback and what they have to say. And so the board did come with the decision that they wanted Reverend Tony to send out an apology to what happened in that incident, in that time frame. And the truth of the matter is, I was one of the ones who was actually against him apologizing, because I personally felt that what he did was all right. I understood that some prominent members decided not to attend the next conference because of what happened in New York, but my feeling is if we are allowed to express who we are, we should be able to sit in front of each other and still have these dialogues without having to run away from it. If we want to unite as spiritual leaders, we need to be able to sit in that discomfort when something doesn't feel right and not run away from it. And so that's why I felt that he didn't need to apologize, but I am very admirable that the fact that he did do it, because he was guided to do it. And the board was guided to do it. But in my mind, it's just that, we just have to get to the point to be okay with individuals expressing their own voices. And that's something that I'm trying to get better at myself. In the holy state, the will is free in the sense that its creative power is unlimited, but choice itself is meaningless. Now, this brings me up to the most recent conference, the one that happened in Las Vegas. And the thing that stood out for me, and I've processed this for quite a while and have to own the fact that it brought up some feelings for me, some emotions, some anger, and some displeasure due to the fact of how people reacted to it. Reacting to someone who gave a talk in essence about body image, and yet, and utilized the striptease aspect of being able to express it. And that's the meaning of it. It was about the whole body image, but yet people focus on the striptease, which they actually are totally, welcome to do that. That's where their mind frame was. But then the, backlash that Reverend Tony got, and probably Reverend Roxy got from it was it was mind-boggling of that. And then it made me think around that same time is, once again, a lot of things were happening racially in our country. Once again, blacks was getting killed by cops, and all this stuff was happening. And then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we're spiritual leaders, and we're getting upset about striptease, yet our country is killing other individuals in our life here. They're killing another race, and yet they're concerned about our striptease act. Where is our priorities? We are spiritual leaders. Our job is to be able to talk and express what's really happening in our countries, whether it's regarding race, whether regarding sexism, homophobia, economic homelessness. That's the voice that we need to put forward. That's the voice that will help us heal this world that we are in. Not because someone did a striptease act. I'm sorry, in my mind, that's minute. There's things much bigger in this world that we need to put our energy to and focus on. You know, it took me a while to be able to be okay with that and to acknowledge that's what it was, because I know for me that my purpose in this world is to heal, to come up and to speak what the Holy Spirit is guiding us to speak. Each and every one of us in this room have a purpose. But the key is, are we going to allow ourselves to truly listen to our voice and not take a step back because we are afraid of what the backlash is going to be? We are afraid because someone's not going to like us because of what we express. But when you think about it, whatever message that we give is actually a healing moment. They may not experience it at that moment, but down the road, it will happen. And for me, that's the thing that I'm trying to get more comfortable with and more at ease with. Freedom to choose is the same power as freedom to create. And for me, this is, important because there was an incident in Austin that we just came back from our softball tournament, where there's always an issue of whether we should add, allow more non-identified gay people, so in other words, straight people on our teams. Because right now they have a rule that you're only allowed to have, 3 straight people on your team. That's just the rule that they have. and so someone brought it up again, and so they had a discussion. But this time, I didn't say anything. Everyone else, spoke and said what their piece regarding it. But for some reason, I chose not to say anything, because I'm from San Francisco, and we tend to be in the spotlight, and so I felt like I was protecting our city of doing it. But then, if someone made a comment about regarding that was the fact that we're allowing free people, then we're not discriminating. It's like they made these comments that didn't sit right for me, but I didn't say anything. And because of that, it ate at me. It ate at me because I did not take that moment to express what I felt was right. And for me, what felt right is whenever you exclude anyone, in my mind, you're discriminating. I do work in the African American community. Yes, that's my target population. But every single person is welcome to everything that we put on. It is not about excluding people. But yet, I did not allow myself to speak at this particular meeting for my own fear. And so I'm learning how to recognize that and have an awareness of it, and to realize how important it is for me to express my voice. Doesn't matter what the outcome is, but it's what I am guided to speak about. God did not leave his children comfortless, even though they choose to leave him. The voice they put in their minds was not the voice of his will, for which the Holy Spirit speaks. Although I did not get the chance to do that at that moment, I did get a chance to do that at my job. For the last 2 years, our office had to go through an intense racial humility training because, yes, the health department have issues as well. And so we, was required to go through this. And it was an amazing 4 days. Intense. But it made each and every one of us to look at our own stuff during that training. But the thing is, we never followed up. We all went through this training, and we never brought it back into our office. And so I had the opportunity when we got to go through a follow-up training to express, our feelings of how, we utilize this since we went through the training. And then I spoke up and said, well, actually, I'm disappointed because our branch didn't do anything. We all went through this training, and not once did we ever talk about it or do anything to move forward, in the discussion regarding race within the department. And because of that, we are now going to have a meeting that I'm going to help facilitate next month to discuss it, and we're going to move forward with it. At least at that moment, I was able to find my voice. I was scared because I had to, talk to my director, my big boss, regarding this. But I realized that it was important. It was important because the Spirit has brought me and us into this space for a reason. And for me, the reason is to continue to have uncomfortable conversations, because that is how we will continue to heal this world. It's not an easy thing. It is uncomfortable a lot of the times to be able to speak out and to be able to find your voice and to understand that not everyone's going to agree with you. But if we take a step back and realize what the big picture is and the purpose is, it is about us extending love to each and every individual that we come in contact with into this world. It is about us healing the wounds that all of us have experienced in our lives. And we can do that by expressing ourselves, finding our own voice. And that's something that I know that I personally will continue to work on. The voice for God is always quiet because it speaks for peace. Yet peace is stronger than war because it heals. And that's my talk.